Most people live as if death were a rumor, something distant, abstract, and safely postponed. And yet this quiet denial shapes every decision they make. It teaches them to rush, to grasp, to postpone what matters, and to cling to what cannot last. The ancient monks believed this forgetfulness was not innocent, but dangerous, because a life not measured against death slowly loses its weight. Very early in Christian history, men and women withdrew into silence not to escape life, but to see it clearly. Among them were Saint Benedict of Nursia and Saint John Climacus, separated by geography and temperament, yet united by a single conviction: remembrance of death is the beginning of wisdom. Not fear, not morbidity, but clarity. To remember death, they taught, is to finally learn how to live. This is not a meditation meant to comfort. It is a discipline meant to awaken. Chapter 1, The Forgotten Horizon. There is a man we will call Thomas. His life is full, but strangely weightless. His days are crowded with obligations, messages, and small anxieties that never quite resolve. He plans endlessly for a future that always feels just out of reach, yet he rarely asks why he is doing any of it. Death, to him, is an unfortunate interruption that happens to other people. Thomas does not realize that by ignoring death, he has surrendered the present. His time feels endless, so his actions feel optional. Nothing presses him toward depth or courage. The saints would say his soul has lost its horizon. Saint Benedict warned that when death is forgotten, life becomes careless. Not sinful in obvious ways, but shallow, distracted, and afraid of silence. The remembrance of death restores proportion. It places the soul back inside reality. Chapter 2, Saint Benedict and the Rule of Sobriety. Benedict did not speak of death dramatically. In his rule, he instructed monks to keep death daily before one's eyes. This was not poetry. It was practice. Each day was to be lived as finite, accountable, and offered. In the Benedictine life, this remembrance shaped everything: work, prayer, speech, and rest. Time was no longer owned. It was received. Death stood quietly in the background, stripping away illusions of permanence. For Benedict, this discipline was mercy. When a man knows his days are numbered, he becomes careful with his soul. He stops postponing repentance. He stops imagining endless chances. He learns to choose what endures. Chapter 3, The Ladder of Saint John Climacus. Far from Italy, in the Sinai desert, Saint John Climacus wrote a work that would shape Eastern Christian spirituality for centuries. The ladder of divine ascent begins not with visions, but with renunciation. And near its foundation stands the remembrance of death. John Climacus taught that the monk who remembers death daily cannot be easily manipulated by pleasure or fear. Death exposes false urgency. It silences trivial concerns. It strips away the theater of the ego. He wrote that remembrance of death is not despair, but the mother of sobriety. It teaches the soul to wake up. A man who remembers his end measures his words, his desires, and his attachments differently. Chapter 4, Death as a Teacher, Not an Enemy. Thomas recoils from this idea. To him, remembering death feels oppressive. He fears it will drain joy from life. But the saints experienced the opposite. They found that death clarifies joy by removing its counterfeit forms. When death is remembered, pleasure loses its tyranny. Approval loses its grip. The endless hunger to be seen, affirmed, and entertained weakens. What remains is quieter, but stronger. The Desert Father spoke of death as a mirror. When a man looks into it honestly, he sees what is real about himself and what is not. This seeing is painful, but it is also freeing. Chapter 5, Ascesis and the Weight of the Soul. Remembrance of death was never isolated. It belonged to a whole way of life called ascesis, spiritual training. Fasting, silence, manual labor, and prayer were not punishments. They were tools to align the soul with truth. Saint Benedict ordered the monk's day with precision because time mattered. Saint John Climacus warned against distraction because attention was fragile. Death stood behind every discipline, giving it seriousness. Thomas begins to sense that his exhaustion is not from effort, but from aimlessness. He works hard, but for nothing ultimate. The saints would say his soul has lost its weight because it has lost its measure. Chapter 6, Hesychia and the Silence of the Grave. In stillness, the remembrance of death becomes unavoidable. Hesychia, inner silence, removes the noise that keeps mortality at bay. In silence, the heart speaks honestly. The monks discovered that when the mind slows, fear often rises. Memories surface. Regrets appear. Death feels closer. Many fled at this point. But those who remained found something unexpected: peace. Saint John Climacus taught that the remembrance of death purifies prayer. Words fall away. Pretenses collapse. The soul stands before God without distraction, as it will one day stand before eternity. Chapter 7, Metanoia and the Turning of Life. When Thomas finally allows this remembrance to enter his life, it does not crush him. It reorders him. He notices how many things he pursues that will not follow him beyond the grave. Slowly, his priorities shift. This is metanoia, a change of mind, a turning of the soul. Not an emotional moment, but a gradual realignment. Life becomes less frantic and more deliberate. The saints taught that repentance is not fear of punishment, but awakening to truth. Death strips away the lie that time belongs to us. What remains is responsibility and freedom. Chapter 8, Living as One Who Will Die. Saint Benedict insisted that humility grows when death is remembered. Saint John Climacus taught that love deepens when time is short. Both understood that mortality, properly received, refines the soul. Thomas begins to speak less and listen more. He forgives sooner. He delays less. His life does not become dramatic. It becomes honest. The remembrance of death does not remove suffering. It removes waste. It teaches a man to live as one who will not always have another day. Conclusion: the quiet measure. Remembering death is not a dark practice. It is a clear one. It rescues life from triviality and restores it to truth. The saints did not remember death because they despised the world, but because they loved it enough to see it clearly. Saint Benedict and Saint John Climacus stand as witnesses to this wisdom. They learned that when death is faced, life is no longer postponed. Each moment becomes accountable, fragile, and precious. To remember death is not to diminish life. It is to finally receive it.